Kirk Cousins has commonly been the butt of jokes for years, thanks to his lack of true playoff success or ability to fail under the biggest lights. What the media doesn't tell you is just how good Kirk Cousins is, and how much of a case there is for him to be considered as one of the league's best quarterbacks.
You serious?
At the 2012 NFL Draft, the Redskins were looking for their next franchise quarterback, and they thought they found him with the second overall pick, a selection they traded a shit ton away for, Robert Griffin III. While RG3 went on to win Offensive Rookie of the Year and start most of the next 3 seasons, Kirk Cousins waited in the shadows, but did see plenty of playtime over that span, going 2-7, passing for 3,030 yards, and throwing 18 touchdowns to 19 interceptions. Then, in 2015, Kirk earned the starting role, and he was damn good.
You like that? You like that?
He led the league in completion percentage at over 4,100 yards and 29 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Plus, and most importantly as a fan, he helped Washington win the NFC East for the first time since 2012. But that was the end of his rookie contract. Washington was stuck with a decision of what to do with Kirk and decided to franchise tag him to see if he was the real deal. And he was. That year, he made his first Pro Bowl after throwing for nearly 5,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. The contract discussion came back up in the offseason, and well, the Redskins franchise tagged him again, making Kirk the first quarterback to be franchise tagged in back-to-back seasons. Kirk threw for over 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions the ensuing season. And finally, the Redskins just let him walk after the two couldn't agree on a contract, instead trading for Alex Smith to replace him. You could say Kirk Cousins landed on his feet, signing a monster 3-year, $84 million, fully guaranteed contract, at the time the highest paying contract in NFL history. He played well, throwing for about 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Kirk was good, but the Vikings missed the playoffs one season after playing in the NFC Championship. They went 10-6, and finally, and I can't tell you how excited I was for this, for the first time in his career, Kirk Cousins won a playoff game, beating the Saints in overtime, but they did lose the next week to the 49ers. On the year, he had over 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and made his second Pro Bowl. That offseason, Minnesota rewarded him with a 2-year, $66 million extension. In 2020, Kirk had about 4,200 yards, a career-high 35 touchdowns, but a career-high 13 interceptions, and the Vikings didn't make the playoffs. He followed it up with his third Pro Bowl selection after he had 4,200 yards, again, 33 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. The Vikings didn't make the playoffs again. He also signed another extension, this time a 1-year, $35 million deal, so he's wrapped up in Minnesota for the next 2 seasons. Now, here's a list of PFF's top-graded passers in 2021. Joe Burrow, who helped his team to a Super Bowl, Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, and Aaron Rodgers, perhaps the best quarterback in the past decade. 4th, Kirk Cousins. Now here's a full list of every quarterback who's thrown for at least 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns in the last 7 seasons. Kirk Cousins, and that's the list. Yeah, if Aaron Rodgers didn't break his collarbone in 2017, he would be there too, I know. But regardless, even if it was just Kirk and Rodgers, that's a really good company to be in. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback anomaly. He doesn't fit what his stats say. Statistically, Kirk Cousins has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL over the past few seasons, and a lot of the time, he even passes the eye test. Not all the time, but often, you can just watch Kirk and understand why he is so valuable. He has all the stats, the talent, the right team around him, but he doesn't have the success. Kirk is 59-2 as a starter in the NFL. His record is the very definition of mediocrity, but his stats and his talent flashes say otherwise. And you can't argue that the right talent hasn't been put around him. Yeah, he did only get to play for 2 seasons with Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers in the league, who did have back-to-back 1,000-yard years with Kirk. 2 seasons, and he already has over 3,000 yards to go with with 17 touchdowns. And in the backfield is Dalvin Cook, one of the game's best running backs. He was injured most of Kirk's first season in the Twin City, but since, in 3 years, he's gone for over 1,100 yards in each season, including 1,500 yards in 2020. And he has over 1,000 yards receiving over the span. The line hasn't been great. Hopefully it's getting better. It probably isn't, but shout out Christian Darrisaw. Go Hokies. Now, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks that have been able to change how their career is viewed, and Kirk Cousins still has time to figure that out. For example, let's look at the greatest Vikings quarterback of all time, Fran Tarkenton. Tarkenton, when he was 33, the same age as Kirk Cousins is today, made the playoffs for the very first time. Over the remainder of his career, Tarkenton won an MVP, helped Minnesota to the Super Bowl 3 times, granted they lost all 3 of them, and now he's in the Hall of Fame. So don't count Kirk out just yet. He has time. Also, shout out to the legend Fran Tarkenton, who apparently was born in our hometown, Richmond, Virginia, even though he did grow up in Georgia. And he even went to Georgia like my boy Matthew fucking Stafford. Matthew Stafford had his career arc completely planned out. He was going to go down as a good quarterback who was never good enough to have playoff success or do anything because he was in Detroit. He was destined to fail like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders did before him. But instead, thank the heavens, he got traded to the Rams. He went from a very good quarterback to a damn Super Bowl champion. Talk about turning around a career. And I'm sure you've seen how much the media has changed how they talk about Stafford. It's a complete 180. And the same thing, I guarantee you, would happen if Kirk Cousins won a Super Bowl in 2022. And if there's a guy that can help him get to his true potential, it's his new head coach, Kevin O'Connell. KOC and Kirk actually do have a previous relationship, so there's already plenty of chemistry there. When Kirk was in Washington, KOC was his quarterback's coach. He was later the Redskins' offensive coordinator. So yeah, just another brilliant mind that Washington let leave. But that's not the point. He spent 2 years as the offensive coordinator for the Rams under Sean McVay, who also coached for Washington. There's already chemistry there, and KOC is a talented offensive mind. I think if anyone can get the most out of Kirk Cousins, it's him. Essentially, Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback that needs to be used in the correct way. He isn't in the same company as the elites, your Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers. Nobody's going to argue that, and if they do, well, they're an idiot. Kirk is, by every definition, a game manager. That saying game manager, it always has a bad connotation to it, but it really shouldn't. He can do whatever he is asked, when he's asked to do it, and he'll likely do it without turning the ball over. The difference is, he isn't going to be the reason you win games like Rodgers or Mahomes. You're going to have to surround him like the right talent that allows him to succeed, more like Derek Carr or even Matthew Stafford or Joe Burrow at times. The reality is, Kirk Cousins is a damn good quarterback that likely doesn't get the respect he actually deserves. No, he probably isn't a top 10 quarterback in the league, but he's that tier just outside of it looking in. Kirk is consistent, has incredible stats, often looks very good on film, and even has great talent around him, but no one cares, because right now at the end of the day, he can't win in the playoffs.